All right, so we've got a little community cast sent in to us here from Faust. He's playing some Dark Elves against the lovely and dreaded Dwarfs. It can't be that can't be any less understated, right? So we've got a good line here. A lot of bleak swords. We've got 2 units of Harganeth executioners. We have Malekith on his great and terrifying chariot here. Always a really good choice when you're playing against dwarfs. You're bringing that AP to the table. You're bringing those chariots to the table. Chariots are always such a great hard counter. I cannot stress this enough, because the nice thing about them is you can just roll through the dwarf line. They don't have enough units with enough kind of gravitas, you know, unit. There's a word for it. I can't think of it off the top of my head, but it basically, the chariots are able to just ride through repeatedly, so you kind of have a lot of advantage there. And top of that, you have a Reaper bolt thrower here, and then another unit of chariots, and then some Sisters of Slaughter, and of course some Black Ark Corsairs. Now, Faust with a really kind of a wide open formation here, a little bit contrary to what I'm usually used to, and I'm really excited to kind of show you guys this replay. This is a community replay. This was sent in to me here, so if you have any replays you want to send in, please by all means send them on over. It's my channel name, Italianspartacus@gmail.com, so you can send them on over if you do wish. Now he is again playing against the dwarves, so again an interesting build here too. So you can see from the map there's some tomfoolery going on. You've got some Bugman's Rangers over here. You've got some Bugman Rangers over here. You've got a lot of miners. You've got the Norgrimlings Ironbreakers, which are a really great unit. Keep in mind here, though, as always with any kind of Ironbreaker, you have a very high armor, very high melee defense, good leadership unit that is really going to be a centerpiece in the battlefield. They're going to be able to chuck the little satchel charges, do a ton of damage. I'm a huge fan of Ironbreakers in both the tabletop and in Total War Warhammer, so I'm glad to see these guys here on the table. Now, again, tomfoolery. Tomfoolery is going off across the board. We do have just a typical Rune Lord here. We've got 2 units of Brimstone, whatever you want to go with, gyrocopters that are thundering down the line. But then you can see in the background we've got 2 units here. Dark Riders with crossbows and some Harpies, and more Dark Riders with crossbows over here. Now, here is the real crux of this. All the way over here is this massive throng of vanguarding dwarfs. Miners with blasting charges, miners with blasting charges. Guess what? More miners with more blasting charges, and then Ekron's miners, who also have blasting charges. Now you have Ulthar's Raiders here. These guys are amazing. They do anti-large, they're AP, they've got stock, they are their Dwarf Ranger Regiment of Renown. They also have this fun ability, if I can highlight over it, there we go. Marched by Ulthar, which is minus 22% to missile resistance and minus 30 to armor. It helps them just delete lords, especially flying lords like Malekith on Seraphon, which is a very typical pick that you see with Dark Elves. Now let's see how this battle kind of plays out here, because it is a very interesting kind of situation here. We don't see this very typically. We have the Brimstone guns already firing off into our Black Ark Corsairs. You can see that our Reaper Bolt Thrower is already starting to start making some work onto those gyrocopters as well, getting those large bolts down range. It is the only thing in the Dark Elf army right now that they can use to try and take those gyrocopters out of the field. Trying to get these Cold One chariots out of the main battlefield. You don't want to get them caught out by these brimstone guns. They will do a bit of damage and get them knocked out quickly. You want to keep them in reserve as long as possible, so that you can bring them onto the dwarf infantry line. Now you can see here the Dark Elves are taking up formation in... Oh, a lot of Bugman Rangers here who are about to be in a whole world of hurt now. But you can see the Dark Elf line is... let's get that charge in there. Yeah, get those Harpies in there. Look at those Dark Elf she-tits all over the place. Harpies, let's kind of slow this down so we can talk about these Harpies. Now, Harpies are a very low-cost unit, but here's something that you should really take a look at. They have a really good weapon strength, and even though they have no AP, they still have 12 AP. That's considerable considering how cheap they are, how kind of a really good air harassment unit that they can pose for the Dark Elves. You can use them to really kind of help maintain that air superiority if you are being challenged against armies that would typically really be a nuisance when it comes to the air superiority game. Now, again, we are seeing some action kicking off here. Now, the Dark Elves are taking up residence here in this little forest. This allows them to neutralize the Brimstone guns as best they can. They're using a bolt thrower, so it can shoot out from here a little bit easier than normal artillery, but mainly they have a lot of Dwarf Rangers that they're going to be up against, so this helps them neutralize that the amount of sheer firepower that's going to be poured into all of these Dark Elves. So a really good tactic here by Faust to kind of hide the rest of his army. Oh, that Reaper Bolt Thrower just shot right into those Black Ark Corsairs. Now you can see the Vanguard pack is starting to pick up here, starting to get up into the face of the Dark Elves. This fight is about to get pretty interesting here. Oh, wrong neighborhood, Rune Lord. Oh, man, just rolled right over. Malekith's not even breaking a sweat, just sword still on the shoulder, doesn't even give a shit. Bugman's Rangers are shattering. Got some, still some more, I'm sorry, not Bugman's Rangers. Yeah, I'm sorry, these are Bugman's, I'm sorry. It's like I'm thinking about the Ulthars. Bugman Rangers still shooting down range, trying to get any kind of purchase over here. Face of Malice kicking into these Rangers with great weapons, which are going to allow you to do a little AP damage, some anti-large there as well. Bugman's now shooting into the forest line here. Again, this is the only real Dark Riders with repeater crossbows, as well as that Reaper crossbow, are really the only range in here. These minor blasting charges kicking off right into these bleak swords. You saw how much damage that did. Ooh. Sorry, that was a Nogrim Ironbreakers there. Good charge coming in here. Oh, yeah. Charge neutralized. I mean, take a look at that. Those bleak swords, before even getting into combat, they're already out of the fight. Hargoneth Executioners now being faced with some blasting charges, but this is good here because those bleak swords were used to kind of screen this charge here. Hargoneth Executioners are going to be the best fight against those Nogrimling Ironbreakers here. That's marked by Ulthar kicking in here. That's really strong here because we were talking about this, how it is going to have that -2, that armor, that -22% to missile resistance, and that missile parry is going to drop significantly. These guys are going to get focused pretty hard by a lot of the range units in the Dwarf army here. So Faust has to play this pretty high and tight because he has to get the rest of his Hargoneth Executioners into this back rear flanking charge from this Vanguard army. There's quite a bit coming his way. We're trying to get a better look at the battlefield here. The balance of power is still pretty balanced. Murderous Prowess has not kicked in yet. Malice kicking in over here on these little dwarfs, kind of knocking them over. Got the chariots ready to run rampant all over the place. You've got the Rune Lord here, kind of surrounded all by bleak swords, and he's got a little bit of the Dark Riders here, so that is a little bit of a threat. He does have to manage that pretty well. You can just see that there are so many blasting charges being fired, volley after volley, into these bleak swords here. Murderous Prowess kicking in, Murderous Mastery, I guess, for the Hargoneth Executioners, I guess you could say. Ulthar's Raiders still chucking axes downfield. Brimstone guns at good ammo, still shooting off, but you do have those Harpies hunting through the night at them, trying to neutralize that air superiority, trying to get from that face that, ooh, right in these Nogrim Ironwing Breakers, which is really good, really good place here for Malekith 2B. This is a really great use of Word of Pain, too. -44 to melee attack means they're not going to be able to get many hits out onto these very dwindled Hargoneth Executioners, but Malekith is just having a field day, running back and forth, like he's at a Chevy dealership test driving Camaros, going hog wild. But as you can see here, here's really the bulk of the fighting going on. This is where the majority of the combat is really going down. As I turn the volume down a little bit so you can better hear my beautiful voice. And as you can see, just Malekith mulching up some of these Bugman's Rangers. The fight against the Nogrim Ironbreakers is about to be completely won. They're starting to really kind of fade away. Oh, another Face of Malice. These guys have just been Face of Malice all day, all long. Now you can see here, the miners with blasting charges are out of blasting charges. It is just the Sisters of Slaughter ripping through them. Hargoneth Executioners cutting them up. You have the chariots ripping through these here Bugman Rangers. So this fight is starting to really start to catapult in the direction for the Dark Elves. I mean, they had a really good engagement going on with those blasting charges, but as soon as you really kind of exhaust those rounds, you've killed the bleak swords off, which is really what I think Faust was trying to do, have those bleak swords absorb the majority of the blasting charges so that Malekith can get to bears, so that you have these Coldwind Chariots getting to bears. So you have both of those units of Hargoneth Executioners really getting a chance to kind of punch the hole into the enemy. Let's take a look at what we got here. Now, we take a look at those Bugman Rangers, right? 51, 54. There was quite a bit of firepower coming out from Morgenrat. But again, 29, 17, 9, 29, 10 kills from all of those blasting charges. But majority of them, though, were done to this unit of bleak swords, this unit of bleak swords. I mean, these guys were still able to get up and close and personal and do a considerable amount of damage. 82 kills for bleak swords against dwarfs is a very significant return on investment there, right? You're looking at what, 550 points versus bare minimum 325 when you're looking at just base miners. So you're still getting a really good exchange for your money's worth. I think it's 450, 425 for a miner for blasting charges. So a really good use there of this unit of Bleak Swords coupled with this one. You can see here that Faust went high and tight. Again, I was saying this previously, and he went with a well-chevroned Bleak Swords front line, backed up by Sisters of Slaughter, who, look, you can see this right here. At 63 kills, they took almost no direct damage. Any one of these Bugman Rangers could have focus fired them pretty well and did a considerable amount of damage. Even though the Sisters of Slaughter don't have a high amount of armor, they can, for some reason, tank quite a bit of range fire, so you do have to kind of watch out for them. But here it is right here. 167 kills, 41 kills on Hargoneth Executioners, over 200 kills from these two units, with what? I think it's a total of 1250 each, or 1400, 1300 each for each one. You're looking at 2600 points in that investment, which is pretty huge. 200 points, or 200 kills across just shy of 1,000 units. That's a pretty good kill ratio in there. And Malekith himself, 65 kills. Colwyn Chariots, 39 kills. Really reaping a tally there. But looking at Morganrat's army, you can see that these Gyrocopters with Brimstones didn't get a chance to really fully come online, but you can still see those Norgrimling Ironbreakers got a considerable amount of kills into these Bleak Swords, Ulthar's Raiders, and as well as these, Ulthar's Raiders were there. Bug Rangers with great weapons are here. But really amazing fight here. This is a high-level play from Faust and Morganrat. This is two really uncharacteristic armies for both of these factions, and it was really great to see them. You don't often see Dwarf Vanguard armies. You don't often see a Dark Elf frontline that's so heavy with Bleak Swords against Dwarfs like this. So, Faust, thank you very much for sending in your replay. And if you guys do have any other replays, please, guys, by all means, feel free to send them in to Italianspartacus@gmail.com. But as always, thanks so much for watching here today. Have a good one, and take care.